here's the final award. We named this one after what I think is the greatest fantasy player of all time, the LaDainian Tomlinson Fantasy MVP Award. These are big hitters, big names. As you see, 2 Dolphins, of course, because we're getting those clout. We're getting that clout. We're getting them clicks. CMC, San Francisco 49ers. Tyreek Hill, Miami Dolphins. CD Lamb, Dallas Cowboys. And Raheem Mostert, Miami Dolphins. You can't go wrong with any of these picks, guys. You really can't, but there's only one. There's only one. There's only one. So I'm going to let you talk. I talk so much.
This one's easy. I mean, truly it was. Well, okay, it wasn't that easy. You do have some good guys. Tyreek Hill was phenomenal this season. Finished as the 5th overall player in the league. CeeDee Lamb finishes 4th overall. Yeah, Raheem Mostert finishes RB2. Who expected that? Like, he was drafted as what, RB 38, something like that, and he finishes RB2. And had Achane taking snaps away from him. Christian McCaffrey plays for the best team in the league. And fortunately for him, Brock Purdy is really good at the screen. So all he has to do is dump it off to Christian McCaffrey, and he can break open for literally everything, scoring the most points in the league this year with 391.3 total points.
I'm going to go ahead and break down the receivers real quick. Tyreek versus CD Lamb. So Tyreek was a wide receiver 2 on the season. CD was wide receiver 1. Through weeks 1 through 16, Tyreek was a wide receiver 1. Let me repeat that. Weeks 1 through 16. The bulk of the season, 99% of the season, Tyreek was a wide receiver 1. That's with missing a game due to injury. Tyreek played 1 less game than CD. I just said that. Tyreek had 0 games less than 10 points. So he had double-digit fantasy points in all games. 6 games less than 20 points. Only 6 games less than 20 points scored for Tyreek Hill. He had 8 games over 20 points. It's phenomenal. That's just incredible. CD Lamb out-targeted Tyreek by 10 targets. So he actually had 10 more targets than Tyreek. Tyreek Hill led the league in touchdowns, he had 12 touchdowns and he had 1,717 yards. Let's go to CD real quick. He had 9 games under 20. 9. It's a lot more than Tyreek. He had 7 games over 20. That's 1 game less than Tyreek. And he had 1 game under 10 points. So he had 1 game where he just completely shit the bed. CD Lamb had 7 games as a wide receiver 1. Tyreek Hill, 8 games as a wide receiver 1. They're really close, right? They're super close. That's why they cancel each other out. And that's what happens, right? That's people do cancel each other out in real life as well. Then you go over to Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert was running back 3. How could he be on this list if CMC is clearly the 1, right? Clearly the running back 1. Well, it's where you drafted him. You drafted Raheem Mostert in the 12th, 11th, 10th round, somewhere down there. So you really had a chance to have both on your team, CMC and Mostert. Drafting Mostert that low is so valuable to your fantasy team because it allows you to have the assets of CD. You could technically, if I break this down, you could have Mostert and Tyreek Hill on your team and maybe CD because CD was going in the 2nd. So you could have went Tyreek, CD, and Mostert all the way down. Imagine that. That's the freedom that Mostert gives you in that 12th round draft pick that he gave you as. Anyway, he was drafted as, I just went through, running back 41, which we already talked about. Hit 1,012 rushing yards, 21 touchdowns. 21 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert had 20 touches inside the 5-yard line. That's tied for first with Gus Edwards. Only Gus and Raheem had more touches inside the 5-yard line. In 2022, I know I'm giving a lot of stats out there, but Jamal Williams, remember him? Remember Jamal Williams? Do we remember that phenomenal year with Detroit where he had a bajillion touchdowns? Well,
Yep.
32.4% of his fantasy points, 32.4% of Jamal Williams' fantasy points came from inside the 5-yard line that year. Raheem fucking Mostert, man. 32.3% of his fantasy points came from inside the 5. I'm talking 6-yard line. The 95 more yards or 94 more yards didn't matter. Whatever it is, 95 more yards did not matter. Inside the 5 is where he made his money. It's where he scored his touchdowns. And it's not going to happen again. He had a great season. Good for him. I just wanted to get it out there. That's going to be a huge talking point throughout this season. it was a fluke year. I'm happy for him, and I'm so happy that the Dolphins had him on his team because I was trashing him all offseason, thinking we need a better player. We need a better running back. And honestly, guys, if you look at the numbers, he's very similar to Jamal Williams, and that didn't translate into the next year. CMC is clearly the winner. I don't need to read this. I don't need to fake like I'm doing an envelope on a little sticky note. CMC is clearly the winner here. He's the best player overall. We all overthought it. He should have been the 101, 24.5 fantasy points per game. The gap between CMC and ETN was 122.6 fantasy points. The gap between Allen and Hurts, which is these are all 1 and 2s, was 15.4. The gap between CD Lamb and Tyreek, 12.5 fantasy points. The gap between Laporta and Kelsey were 6. We're talking all those gaps combined don't even touch CMC's gap between him and ETN. Don't even come close. He was clearly the best at his position, clearly the best player on earth, clearly the number one guy. 13 weeks as a running back one, 9 weeks inside the top 5 at the running back position, scored touchdowns in 13 games, 5 multi-touchdown games, career low, by the way, in receptions, career high in rushing yards, career high in touchdowns. It's CMC and nobody else, guys. It's his own class. We're in the CMC world, and we're enjoying it, man.